What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Chargers franchise in Madden 17. You're going to hear me saying that twice in this video because I recorded two separate parts to this kind of season recap video, and this is going to be the first part. It is going to be where I discuss these stats for the team this season, or when actually not even really for the team, league leaders, and I don't know if I showed team stats or not, but I did go over like the league leaders and stuff. And then the second half of this video, it's not even really a half, it's 3 times as long as this first part, but the second part of this video is going to be going up tomorrow, and that is going to be my team overview, future plans, how I think each player is playing. It's a very long video. I think it lasted around 45 minutes total, and I decided I was originally going to put that just as an amendum and do like 15 minutes on that, but I really went much longer, and I liked the discussion. It was just kind of a thinking out loud type of thing that I was doing, where I was like, I really like this player, I think this player can have a role, this is what I want to address in the off season, and it's kind of like an off season preview, or what my future plans are with each player on the team and everything like that. So I hope you guys enjoy that too. But this is gonna be the first part of this video. I don't think I show like individual stats, but I do show where like our players ranked throughout the league and things of that nature. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy the next couple days of this Chargers franchise. I really want to move through this series a little faster. I think it's been a little slow so far, and I've definitely enjoyed Madden a lot this year. So, or at least posting this series and playing this franchise after kind of rough first season. So, anyway, enjoy the video. Enjoy both parts of the video. Just thought I would explain things to you guys as to why this video randomly just ends in the middle of, I don't even think it's a sentence, but in the middle of me doing stuff. So anyway, enjoy. See you later. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Chargers franchise in Madden 17. And today we are here to recap the first season, or the second season, excuse me. I decided to make this a different video instead of just bundling it in like I did last year. I'm pretty sure I did like one full off-season episode, and like I didn't bundle or anything. Or I bundled the stats of the offseason. But this year I wanted to do it separate. I want to do a live com, and we're going to kind of break down my future plans with the roster, because I've had all these ideas in my head, and I've never really shared with you guys what my envisionment for these this team is, or these specific players on the team, what I plan to do with them in the future. We're going to be covering through the stats and everything, so just a quick aside, I don't know if I'm uploading this before I do the playoffs at all, or if I'm uploading it after the playoffs are done, but for the purposes of this video, we're only going to be covering the wild card round of the playoffs, because I haven't played any of the other possible rounds at this point, and I haven't simmed or anything. We are taking on the Houston Texans in the divisional round. It looks like they won their playoff game. I don't know who else won theirs, but we're going to start things off by going through the standings and the team stats. So let's take a look here. First, at the AFC, we were the second seed. We clinched the second seed in week 16 with our win over the New York Giants. It was a good game. It was one of the better games I played this year. It was very, very competitive. A couple of plays on both sides, defensively and offensively. And we were able to get the second seed because of that. The Jets actually jumped the Texans. The Texans were the team I was really worried about, but the Jets finished the season on a 3-game winning streak. That's obviously not the Steelers' 12-game win streak to finish out the season, but the Jets are like the second hottest team coming into the playoffs, and the Texans were very cold, but it looks like they won their first-round matchup. It looks like they played against the New England Patriots, who made the playoffs at 9-6-1, and 9-7 was good enough for a wild card, as the Oakland Raiders, our division rival, made it. Titans missed. The Bengals, 8-7-1 record. If they just won that game, they might have had a chance. The Jaguars, who went all the way to the AFC title game last year, aren't going to be in the playoffs. The Broncos, 7-9. The defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs, 5-11 this year. A couple big injuries. Alex Smith was out for most of the year. The Ravens, 5-11 yet again. The Browns, 4-12. They had a really bad year last year too. And the Dolphins, 4-12, and the Bills, 3-13. Surprisingly bad year out of them. But the Ravens, a couple of bad seasons in a row. They actually had the #1 pick last year, if you recall. And now in the NFC, this is a much weaker conference. The Seahawks, 11-4-1, was the 1 seed. So we would have been the 2 seed in either conference, but it would have been much closer of a race with Seattle. And we honestly sat our starters in the last week for the most part, or at least some of them anyway. And if we were in the NFC, we probably would have been gunning for that home field advantage throughout the playoffs instead of just a bye week. So we probably would have been in a tighter race with Seattle, but the AFC looked like it was the better conference this year, at least in terms of the top heaviness anyway. So the Panthers were the second seed, 10-6, a lot better. I believe they were like 7-9 or 6-10, something like that last year. Very rough season, much like they are having in real life. The Cowboys won their division at 10-6. They are the defending NFC champions, so it'll be interesting to see them in the playoffs once again. And the Redskins made it as a wild card. The Packers were your 4 seed, and they actually pushed the Bucs out of the playoffs because of it. The Packers are your 4 seed. They won the NFC North. It looks like they had some sort of tiebreaker over the Bears, and if the Bears had won their last game, they would have been in. But the Packers finished on a 3-game win streak after sitting at 6-7 in Week 14. And the Rams made it as the other wild card. They were one of the teams I was actually considering using for this franchise, so that's cool to see. And the Buccos are going to miss the playoffs. Let's look at their conference record. They were only 6-6 in the conference. The Rams were also 6-6 in the conference. I don't know what tiebreaker they would have gone to after that. I'm not sure. I don't have the list of tiebreakers like sitting in front of me or anything, so I don't know. But they might have had like a head-to-head tiebreaker that the Rams won or something like that. The Bears missed out. Saints 8-7-1. A lot of ties this year. Giants 8-7-1. Pretty formidable team, though. They just need to get a little bit better defensively. That was the big problem that we exploited against them. This last matchup against them was their defense wasn't very good, and we weren't able to really capitalize on it, but their defense gave up big plays all day. The Eagles 8-7-1, Falcons 7-9, Vikings 7-9, 49ers 6-10, a little bit better than last year when they picked number 2 overall. The Lions 4-12, and the Cardinals miserable at 3-13, and they went 1-7 at home this year. So very brutal year for a team that many would probably have pegged as the Super Bowl champion or a Super Bowl contending team. They don't really ever sim well in Madden, though, it seems like. So it's interesting. All right, so let's look who scored the most points in the NFL. I'm guessing it's gonna be the Steelers. It is the Steelers, 557. It's almost 100 more than the second place team, and it was almost 100 more than we scored on the season 2. 4th best scoring offense, and I believe we had the best scoring defense in the NFL. We did. The best, excuse me, scoring defense in the NFL belonged to the San Diego Chargers. 337. They allowed 11 less points, excuse me, than the Panthers, the Rams, Seahawks, Packers, and Jets were your next few, and that was really what put the Jets in the playoffs. They didn't have the greatest offense, but defense wins games, as the old adage goes, and it looks like a lot of the teams that had better defenses did make the playoffs, although the Steelers kind of had a subpar scoring defense. So did the Texans actually got outscored, but they were a 10-win team, so that's interesting to see. Let's go to something else now. We'll look at the league leaders before we look at our own individual stats, because ours isn't anything super special to look at. It's kind of the same for a lot of guys as it was last year. We'll look at the league leaders in passing yards. So Jason Watt actually finished 3rd in the league in passing yards. He did have those 22 interceptions, though, so pretty brutal for him. Drew Brees finished 4th in passing yardage, and probably what's going to be his final season. I honestly had thought he retired in the offseason, because I remember the Saints were really gunning hard for a quarterback in the draft, and I believe they actually drafted 1 or 2, can't remember. Andy Dalton, Eli Manning, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, all over 4,000 yards in the season. We had no 5,000-yard passer, although Blake Bortles and Ben Roethlisberger did come within 100 themselves. I need a drink really fast. Oh, refreshing. Phillip Rivers finished just under that threshold. His yardage totals were kind of low, mostly because we didn't have the ball very much. As you'll see, when we go through the team stats, we weren't the greatest team in terms of offensive yardage on the season, even though we had a very good scoring offense. So I'm imagining we had a lot of 3-and-outs and things of that nature. But Phillip Rivers, very good season out of him still. He's been solid for many years now, and we're hoping that he decides to stick around for one more year. 64 percentage, only 16 turnovers, or only 16 interceptions at least, which is about 1 a game, which I'm happy with. You know, it's not the worst, considering I simmed a lot of these games, and these top quarterbacks are all like under 1 a game, but Phillip Rivers is a little bit older and working with probably less talent in terms of good players around him than some of these guys are. Like, you know, we have Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen, not contradictory to his performance last year, Keenan Allen is not Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver of the generation, probably. I'd say him and Calvin Johnson are probably 1-2, but maybe Randy Moss in there too. I don't know what you'd consider him as a. So your leader in touchdowns is more, it's Ben Roethlisberger, but Philip Rivers second, Russell Wilson, Blake Bortles, Andy Dalton, and interceptions. Who led the league? Jason Watt, Drew Brees, Evan Bridge. So a lot of rookies up here, and Philip Rivers was actually fifth in that category, but you know, I'll still take that. Rodgers having a pretty down year, much like he is in real life. It looks like only 61 completion percentage, 28 touchdowns. Blake Bortles, not the greatest year in the world. Kevin Hogan started most of the year for Kansas City after Alex Smith got hurt. Hugh K, number 2 overall pick, not the greatest showing so far. Cam Newton had a pretty decent year, it looks like. Derek Carr had a pretty good year as well. Let's look at completion percentage. Ben Roethlisberger, 73. Wilson at 71, though, has quite a bit of a campaign MVP case of his own. Drew Brees, despite having those 20 interceptions, did have, the third highest completion percentage out of starters. I won't really count Marcus Mariota because it looks like he got injured at some point. No, he played 12 games. They must have just not passed very much this year. He only had 2,000 yards. Drew Brees, Cam Newton, 68% completion percentage. That's probably a career high by a considerable margin. Andy Dalton, 67. Kirk Cousins, 67. Jason Watt, 66. So it looks like in terms of just pure completion percentage, Philip Rivers was a little bit above average this season. He's in that Teddy Bridgewater, Matt Ryan, Eli Manning sort of range. Paxton Lynch had a very good season too, it looks like. And we'll go by yards per game, and that's going to be Ben Roethlisberger, Blake Bortles, Jason Watt. Aaron Rodgers, despite kind of a down year, did have 283 passing yards a game. Let's look at passer rating and see Ben Roethlisberger, 125 passer rating. Brett Hundley, it looks like. So Rodgers must have been injured for part of the year. That might be why his stats are so low. But Brett Hundley, very good showing. 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in, what was it? He played apparently 16 games. He only played 410 snaps, though, so might be more of an indication. He might have just come into a lot of blowouts late. But Russell Wilson. So let's look at this. So Russell Wilson was second. Andy Dalton third. I clicked rushing on accident. We'll get to that in a moment. We'll go back to his passer rating. So second Russell Wilson, third would be Andy Dalton, fourth Paxton Lynch, fifth Andrew Luck, sixth Blake Bortles, fifth Cam Newton, or seventh Cam Newton, eighth Matt Ryan, 9 Derek Carr, and 10 Philip Rivers. So Philip Rivers effectively, among people who started a lot, had the 10th best passer rating in the league, and I'll definitely take that. Very good year out of him, I would say, considering his age and the talent around him, and the fact that he is never really been the greatest quarterback. He's still one of the best quarterbacks ever to play, but the entire time he's been in the league, he's never been the best quarterback or a top 3 quarterback, I wouldn't say. So considering how he has aged very well, and he's performing for us still. Former Charger Zach Mettenberger from last year, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks, 64% completion percentage. It looks like he played about half the season for the Houston Texans. So let's get into rushing, as we had the big hitter this year, Melvin Gordon, with 1,437 yards, and we did sit him for the final game of the season, so his totals actually could have been higher. He would have won the rushing crown regardless, though, as he was the only running back to even threaten 100 yards per game. Actually, it looks like Deion Lewis and Jamal Charles are up there too, but they fought injury, and Jamal Charles was under 90. Deion Lewis, I believe, was injured for a fair majority of the year, though. He actually only played 4 games, it looks like, but he, it's because it's yards per game. So these guys didn't appear very much, and then Giovanni Bernard was the next closest. Jeremy Hill on the Eagles, Devontae Freeman, Zeke Elliott, and Le'Veon Bell only at 80. But I imagine he contributed much more in the passing game than Melvin Gordon did. Melvin Gordon also led the league, I believe, no, he did not, actually. If you guys passed him, he's tied for 4th, though, in rushing touchdowns with 10. He hit double digits after having, I think, like 15 last year. But it was a better rushing season for him, I would say, as Deion Lewis had 6.2 yards per carry. But beyond that, it doesn't look like, Todd Gurley had 5, but he didn't play very much this season. Le'Veon Bell, Giovanni Bernard, Melvin Gordon, Zeke Elliott, all over 4.5 yards per carry, which, considering I simmed a fair majority of the season, 4.8 is pretty good because a lot of running backs are terrible in simulation for whatever reason. And he also only fumbled 4 times, which compared to the rest of the league seems about average. Jeremy Hill fumbled 6 times, and it looks like he played most of the season. Yeah, he played 16 games. LaShawn McCoy fumbled 5 as well, and Lamar Miller 5. So it looks like he was about an average back in terms of fumbling, considering that he had 300 touches. He only fumbled it 4 times. I would say that was a relatively successful rate of fumbling, and not a very successful, not as much of a successful year anyway out of Mr. Keenan Allen, as he did finish with 83 catches for 1,003 yards, but not quite where he was last year when he was second in the league. He did pick it up in the second half of the season, as he was below 9 yards per catch for about half the season. He'd come on late with his yards after the catch, I imagine, or just the length of reception. He had 62.7 yards per game, which looks like it's about, like, what, 20th in the league, somewhere in there. And Travis Benjamin going down, I think, helped that out a lot, because Travis Benjamin started out very hot, and Keenan Allen didn't really turn it on until the second half of the season. So I think once we started turning him more, it really worked out for us. And Travis Benjamin was eligible to come off IR for this game, but and I'll probably say this in the video of the divisional playoff game as well, but he was eligible to come off the DL, or the injured reserve, against the Texans, but the other two, Jason Verrett and Frank Gore, were not, which is fine. So that's all good right there. And so I got a text real quick. We'll go through some of the rest of the stats just so you can see the league leaders, as Pilgrim with a good rookie season, it looks like. Levante David, Bernardrick McKinney, Alden Smith had 126 tackles, so that's a very strange year for him. Let's look at sacks. Jared Odrick led the league. Calais Campbell tied for that as well, so that's a very strange year out of these guys, not typically big pass rushers. Michael Bennett, Robert Quinn, Everson Griffin, J.J. Watt, some more familiar names here. Charles Johnson with a great year. Jerry Hughes, Jared Crick, Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, Carlos Dunlap. And let's look at interceptions. Orlando Scandrick had 8. Xavier Rhodes, Will Davis, Darrell Revis, and William Gale had 6. Oh, Perry Riley, too. Good year out of him. And a few of these other guys, I'll just scroll through the list right here. And now we'll move on to kicking, as it looks like Greg Zuerlein made the most field goals in the NFL. Graham Gano, most accurate. Cairo Santos, over 90% as well. And Greg Zuerlein was actually the 6th most accurate kicker in the league this year, but he did miss 5 field goals. But over 80%, I'd say, was a pretty successful conversion rate. 84 I'll take every day. Mason Crosby, 18 for 21. Roberto Aguayo, 19 for 22. Panning out a lot better in this game than he did in real life. Greg Zuerlein only missed 1 extra point all year. Let's see who made the least. It looks like Travis Coons missed 3 for the Bears, and Cody Parkey missed 2 for the Philadelphia Eagles. It looks like everybody else did pretty well in terms of kicking extra points. Missed 1, maybe 2 at most, outside of Mr. Coons. So punting, we'll look at the average and see. Drew Kaiser was again last, which is not a good sign, but we're probably going to hold on to him just because he's cheap still. Brent Kern led the league. Marquette King, number 2. Ryan Allen, number 3. Morstead, 4.